Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Meet the Snares. I'm Phee, feeshortdrums.com. I do session drumming. This is a chance for you to just take a little sample of each one of my snare drums. The snare is like the biggest thing in the mix. It just has so much control over how your song is perceived. So you want to be careful about what snare sound you have on your song or your record. These are in order from like lowest to highest, kinda, sorta, but just where I like to have them tuned. I got this drum, which is a 14x8 DW maple mahogany. It has mahogany on the inside and the outside, but it's mainly a maple drum. But anyway, I got this specifically because I wanted a drum that just sounds low naturally, that I could have that super low, like vintagey indie sound without doing any tricks to make it happen, that I could just have that sound naturally come from a snare. And I think I achieved it with this drum. It is the only one of its kind, so I think that's cool. It's the only 14x8 maple mahogany shell that has 8 lugs. DW doesn't do that normally. So check it out. It's great for worship music. It's great for indie. It's great. It's great. Enjoy. I call it MAHONEY. This is Meet MAHONEY. Have a listen. And what we have here, sorry to play favorites, but this might be my favorite snare drum that I own. It has a stupidly long name. This is a Mapex Black Panther Precious Metals Phosphorus Bronze. Hammered is in there somewhere. Phosphorus Bronze snare drum. It's 14x6.5. It was formerly owned by Will Calhoun of Living Color. I guess he sold all his gear to a music store, and I purchased this from them, or maybe they were lying, who knows. But I actually did see Living Color perform, and he was using a snare that couldn't have probably been this snare. He had it cranked super high. It sounded amazing, but I really wanted to know what it would sound like tuned low. I tune it kind of medium low. I also put an S-hoop on it because I felt like it was just a little bit too cracky for me. And so that rounded it out nicely, made it sound thicker. This drum sounds great at any tuning. It really doesn't have a sweet spot, but this is where I like to use it, in the medium-low range. I think you'll dig it. But just know that this drum can do it all. If you want me to use this drum and crank it up, it can do it so wonderfully well. So enjoy. I call it Halle Berry. This is Halle Berry because she's bronze and curvy. Here we have my Ludwig Superphonic. Just did a video on this one. So if you follow me, you know about this one already. It sounds amazing. As a drum by itself, it doesn't attract many drummers. But it's in the mix where the Superphonic sounds so good. Mix engineers love it. Producers love it. It also sounds good at any tuning. I have it in the medium range, probably sounds medium-low to most others. It's where I like it the most. And it has a very different sound whether it's muffled or not. So I'll demonstrate it both open and muffled, because both sound great even though they sound really different. Muffled, it sounds great for country. Wide open, it's more of a rock snare. But man, it sounds good to me. So enjoy, and I call it Sue Meet Sue, because it's a supraphonic, get it? Anyway. Here we have a great find. This is a Pearl Jupiter. They stopped making these long ago. A friend of mine sent me a track, and I just felt like it needed a Jupiter. And so it just so happened that the same day I started working on that track, I just checked Facebook Marketplace locally, and somebody had a Jupiter for sale. I got it for a great deal. I bought this drum just for that song, but I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I have it in the arsenal. It does this super, super compressed thing very well. Like, it just has so much breath along with it. It's awesome for like pop rock, like the 1975 type sound. I love it. I dig it. I think I'm going to call her Judy. Jupiter, Judy. I kind of, name the drums close to what they're already named. So enjoy Judy. Pearl Jupiter. Here we have my newest snare, and it's kind of like a newborn baby. Like, it's just so cute. I love it so much. It's a Slingerland Festival steel snare drum. This was the student model in the 70s and 80s from Slingerland. It does not sound like a student model. It might be, just on a purely judging the sound quality, the acoustic sound quality, it might be the best sounding drum out of all of these. I'll leave that up to you. It can do any tuning, but I really like where it is in the medium-high range. It sings. It does have an internal muffler, but I don't have it engaged because the ping is so beautiful. But if you like the way a drum is cracking, but you don't like the pitchy sustain, that can easily be tackled with EQ or with muffling. And so don't let a drum scare you if you don't want a ringy snare. This one, I think, sounds just perfect when it's ringy and wide open. But it still sounds good muffled too. This is the Slingerland Festival Steel. I haven't named it yet, so why don't you leave a comment and suggest a name for this Slingerland Festival Steel snare drum. Enjoy. This drum has served me very well. This was my live snare with Fireflight for a couple years. It is also the snare that I used on most of the tracks on the Unbreakable album. The mix engineer, J.R. McNeely, who mixed that record, I'm pretty sure he took the sound, it was a really detuned sound that he took from this drum and created a sample out of that and used that for most of the record. And it sounds great. So I'm gonna demonstrate this both tuned down and muffled and then cranked up because it has that beautiful rock sound when it's low and dead, but also like a beautiful gospel urban sound cranked up. So enjoy both. And I call her MABEL because it's a maple snare, but it's an SJC custom, 8-ply with 6-ply rings, so it has the tone and the crack at the same time. Enjoy MABEL. What we have here is a piece of garbage. This is a vintage MIJ made in Japan snare drum. The story there is Pearl once upon a time had a factory in Japan, and the people that ran the factory just made their own drums that weren't Pearl drums. And this was one of those. What it looks like, this construction, it actually looks like birch, but it looks like a flimsy one vertical ply of birch that's only held together by thick one ply reinforcement rings that are also birch, I think. So it's very out of round. That's not a good construction for a snare drum. It's very, very difficult to get one flimsy ply of wood to be in round. So I paid very little for it, and I had high hopes, but it did not deliver. It did not sound good at all. The strainer is almost unusable. So I decided to make it my Billie Jean snare. I just made it as dead as possible with an HD dry head, the internal muffler engaged all the way, probably add moon gel too, and a 40 strand wires. And I don't use a room mic with this drum because I want it to be dead. So enjoy this very dead snare. And I think I want to call it Vinny. I haven't really named this one yet either. I don't know if it's worthy of a name because it is a terrible drum, but it totally does the dead vintage sound. So vintage made me think of Vinny. Meet Vinny. He sounds terrible, but it works. Here we have my DW True Sonic. It is a Rogers Dynasonic copy. This drum sounded absolutely perfect right out of the box. This is the only drum I've ever purchased that I felt it sounded absolutely perfect the first time I hit it. And I actually left it how it was for a very long time. It wasn't until I changed the head that I changed the tuning. But it does the high and dry thing. It has the modified snare system, snare bridge they call it. This is similar to the Pearl Jupiter or Judy that we went through earlier. This is just a shallower shell and a higher natural sound to it. And it's definitely my go-to for pop music because it just does that high and dry thing so perfectly. So that is my DW True Sonic. I call her Trudy. Say hi to Trudy. Aw, isn't she cute? This is my side snare. You could use it as a main snare if you want. It sounds good. PDP concept, black nickel over steel. It just does what it does, and it's awesome. What should I name it? I haven't named this one because it's a side snare. We'll call it Psy. I knew a Psy once. Nice guy. So say hi to Psy. Okay, there you have it. Now let's listen to them all back to back so we can compare and contrast. Thanks for joining me. Check out feeshorb.drums.com and see you in the next video. Subscribe. Give me some love. You can follow me on Instagram too at feeshorb.